It's Monday, August 19th, 2024. Let's take a look at the headlines making waves in the Nigerian dailies, beginning with The Punch. The bolder headline says, food crisis may worsen as flood hits 10 states. Can turn to page 2 of the paper to get the full story. And above the nameplate, NNPC battles deepening fuel scarcity, black market booms. The full story is found on page 23 of the paper. And on page 42, presidential jets. Abiodun consults federal government as Utomi tackles Amazon. And on page 26, federal government eyes $2 billion from local dollar bond sale. And below the picture, police detectives hunt 20 varsity students abductors. Can turn to page 44 of the newspaper to get the full story. Beside that, on page 4 and 5, Vietnam-bound businessman excretes 88 cocaine wraps. And before we go, on page 24, civil servant screening on IPPIS portal ends Friday, says the federal government. Away from The Punch, let's go to Daily Trust, where the bold and only headline says, no NAS approval for new presidential jet. Away from that, let's take it to Vanguard, where the bolder headline says, why grains importation won't happen soon by stakeholders. You can turn to page 20 of the Vanguard to get the full story. And above the nameplate, Serap to Akpabio Abbas disclose monthly running cost of NAS. You can get the full story on page 10 of the paper. And on page 22, scarcity. NNPC blames distribution challenges. It has one rider which says independent marketers sell at 950 naira per litre. And beside that, on page 10, OPIC leads Amazon Utomi bicker over contract violation. And beside the picture, medical student abduction. Governor Alia NMA Health Ministry tasks security agents on rescue. You can get the story on page 9 of the Vanguard. And on page 8, minimum wage. Federal government says we won't accept unauthorized recruitment into agencies. And on page 12, Azinge emerges 14th Asagba of Asaba designate. And in sports, on page 30, Rangers Remo Stars begin with slim wins. And before we go, on page 9, bad economy. Drop in passenger traffic unsettles domestic airlines. Away from the Vanguard, let's go to Business Day, where the border headline says, from Russia to Malta, how Matrix Energy imports dirty petrol. You can get the full story on page 31 of the paper. And on page 30, Nigeria wastes gas enough to power 3 million households. And also on page 31, $1.5 billion Lagos-Ibadan line fails to lift rail haulage. Nigeria eyes revenue from $56.7 billion crypto markets. You can turn to page 30 of the paper to get the full story. And on the back page, the business odyssey of Oba Otudeko, a journey of vision, valor, and victory. Away from Business Day, let's go to the Nigerian Tribune, where the bolder headline says uncertainty over federal government's plan to boost food production. It has two riders, one of which says governors yet to provide plan. And you can get the full story on page 2 of the paper. Above the nameplate, Edo PDP alleges police harassment, arrest of party members. You can get the full story on page 23 of the paper. And on page 4, presidential jet seizure, another can of worms open. Beside the picture, Reno Omokri to Obi, why insecurity should not be politicized. You can get the full story on page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune. And on page 24, Nigeria's public health in need of urgent improvement, says Tomori. And Majun Wayek, how schools candidates can get withheld results released faster, says Wayek. And before we go, on page 3, poses over new law to extend IGP's tenure. You can get the full story on page 2 of the paper. That's all we'll be having today on the headlines making waves in the Nigerian dailies. If any of these headlines caught your attention, do well to get a copy of the paper and read the full story on the identified pages.
Visit Housing TV Africa on YouTube and click on the subscribe button. Subscribe to Housing TV Africa to stay updated on latest happenings in Nigeria's housing sector. Follow our social media pages, like and share our posts on Facebook, Housing TV Africa, on Twitter, Housing TV Africa, Instagram, Housing TV Africa. Join the conversation and keep up with latest housing updates.